What's up, guys? So I got back from watching Bloodshot an hour ago. I honestly did not think I was going to get to do this film review this month. Like, I really did not think it was going to happen. But it is. Here we are. I'm very happy to be able to do this. Film reviews are some of my favorite videos to work on. Not only because I get to watch a new film, and it's always something that's on my wanna watch list, but also because they're some of the few videos that I do actually script to an extent. So without further ado, let's dive in. If you haven't seen any of my film reviews beforehand, I divide each film into 10 little categories, those being script, casting, acting and directing, which includes things like fight choreography and stuff, cinematography and editing, set design and locations, the soundtrack, the special and visual effects, whether those are practical or computer generated imagery, the costuming and the makeup, the accuracy or originality as a piece. So for this one we're going off accuracy to the comic books, and then the marketing. So I've got the first 4 down, and I'm just going to sort of award points as I go from there, but at the moment it looks like it's going to be doing fairly well. Alright, so the script gets an 8. I really enjoyed the story in this film, and the script gets the main sort of story credit going into the script. So I really enjoyed the story in this one. There were a couple of parts there where it felt very movie cliche, like there were a lot of famous last words spoken. For instance, this is going to be a spoiler review, by the way. But no, there was a part there where he's talking to the guy in charge of the company that made the nanites, and they're in like they're basically like communicating in a virtual space, and it's sort of getting towards later on in the film, and Bloodshot threatens the like CEO basically, and tells him that he's going to make him pay, and the CEO sort of logs Bloodshot out of the virtual space, and then there's just a shot of him, and the CEO says, "No, you won't," and it's like, those are definitely some famous last words. This guy has super healing to the nth degree. He's going to make you pay. So there were a couple of bits there, and sort of being able to see certain things coming does take away from the mystery of the story. You can sort of preempt things pretty well. But at the same time, trying to create something that's completely new and really subverts your expectations at every turn is particularly hard to write, especially if you're trying to fit it within sort of a certain genre. Genres all have cliches and tropes and stuff for a reason. That's because that's what sort of defines them as a genre. But all in all, pretty solid script, so an 8. Now I only recognised 2 members of the cast, and I'm counting the cast as we got 4 characters on our main, like, villain side. We got 3 on our main hero's side, and if I'm going to include the 3, we'll call them side characters, I did recognise an extra 1 from that group. But if we're just taking from like the main teams, I did only recognise 2, those being Vin Diesel and some obvious bias there. I love all of his movies. I think the other day, actually, I have them sitting just here. Look at that. All the first 7 of those. We got The Last Witch Hunter, his XXX movie, all 3 of the Riddick films. We got Babylon AD. He's also in Guardians of the Galaxy, which I have. I have the first one. I don't have the second one. It's a Phase 3 film. And there's some other ones as well. What have I not got here that he's in? Trying to think at the moment. I'm pretty sure there's something else that he's in that I've got, and I can't think of the name of the film at the moment. But I've got a full stack there. So obvious bias there. And playing the hero, we love that. And then the main villain was Guy Pearce, running a tech company, and his technology ends up being body enhancements that heal you. I'm wording this very specifically so that it sounds familiar, because it's exactly what his character does in Iron Man 3. Although this time, instead of deriving it from gene splicing from implants and whatnot, it's nanotechnology, which really just means that he's, if we want to put a little headcanon crossover, whatever you want to call it in, it just means that he didn't die at the end of Iron Man 3. He was able to reform himself and then used the technology inside him with extraness to turn it into nanobots, if we're going to go with that. Which I did think about. I did also think that it would be really cool now that Bloodshot's out and we can see his performance in that. I did think it'd be kind of cool to see maybe like some animation on YouTube potentially of all of Vin Diesel's characters in a little team up situation. I think that'd be cool. But no, those were the only 2 that I recognised. Everyone else though did portray their characters just really well, really believably. So casting gets 8, and points for the others for doing their characters really well goes into the acting and directing line, which is a line that I always sort of ask myself, how would I have done things differently if I was acting in that, or if I was directing that. For those of you that don't know, I am myself a filmmaker. I'm trying to get a short film up and running at the moment, so that I can upload a short film onto my YouTube channel. It's really what I want to do. So hopefully this virus doesn't last too long, and I'll be able to get a small team of people together to film a movie with. That'd be really cool. But there wasn't really anything that I that I would have done differently. So that credit actually gets a 9. I would give it a full 10, but I'm well aware of my bias, as well as having only just watched it. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it like tomorrow morning or whatever, but by giving it a 9, I've shown that I did find this film to be a really good action film for what it was. Cinematography and editing, an 8. There are just some beautiful shots, particularly in the fight scenes, and some really nice use of slow-mo in some of those as well. Just some beautifully framed shots, and all the sequences flow together very seamlessly, as well as sequences into sequences flowing pretty naturally as well. Not much I would have done differently there either, so that can get an 8. The set design, we are now up to, we'll be assigning new numbers as we go along. So set design, for the most part, it was all sort of on location. Like there's a couple of scenes in some streets and stuff where they would have been on location. The only one that I can think of that would have been an actual set is whenever they're in the tower itself. But if we then go along and add sort of set dressing in as well, this was really well done. I'm gonna give it a 7 though, because whenever a tech company is involved in a film like this, and in this regard I'm talking about like in the original 2 Iron Man films, whenever you're actually at Stark Industries, it's all very sort of plain walls, because the actions obviously we're just supposed to be focusing on, but there's like nothing around it to make it sort of feel like a lived-in world. The same goes for Omnicorp in the RoboCop remake. Yeah, whenever a tech company is used in a film like that, and it's sort of like the main thing where the hero or the villain or both work or have sort of like their alter ego based in whatever, however you want to sort of put that. Whenever that's in a film that way, I don't know, they don't, like, they'll show you 1 or 2 shots of it being like, look at all this machinery, and it's like, okay, cool, yeah, in that moment it's believable as this tech company, but then you inevitably end up in a lab or something, and there's nothing on the walls, there's no personality in the rooms, and I get that if it's, because they don't want to distract from the action that's going on, but at the same time, especially with things like a comic book film, which this was, the backgrounds of your labs, where it's, normally going to be very sort of, like the walls are not the focus, obviously, but that's the perfect place to hide little Easter eggs. Now, Valiant Comics is not a massive thing like Marvel or DC, so there may not have been that many Easter eggs to plant in the film, but I still think that labs in general, particularly like tech labs, need to have some sort of wall dressings going on in the background. There needs to be some sort of personality, because the person that normally works in that lab is there, you know, whenever they're at work, and you can't tell me that they're not going to put up, you know, some equations or some posters or whatever to sort of make full use of the space, sort of thing. So I don't know, I find it a little bit we'll move on. I've ranted about that for too long. Soundtrack, I'm going to give it a 6. It does its job nicely, but it's not particularly memorable. Sitting here right now, I only watched it an hour, I only finished watching it an hour ago. I can't remember any of the music out of it. So that takes us on to the special and visual effects, giving it an tough choice. Do I give it an 8 or a 9? I'll go an 8. We'll go the lower side. Again, because we'll go with the recency bias? Is that what the phrase I'm looking for? Feels right. I'll have to double check it. But because I just recently watched it, basically, and therefore I still sort of excited about it, having seen the film for the first time. But pretty much any time they do a slow-mo of Vin Diesel's face merging back together because of the nanites, it's beautiful. The CG is really well done there. There is also the sort of extreme wide shot of the docks as they're in the virtual neural space, they call it, when they're actually constructing the docks, and you sort of see sort of like the computer program placing it all together, as the camera does like a couple of rotations around them, and it's a beautiful shot, and it probably would have been one of the shots that took the longest, because not only have you got to render something from being CG into then being a real location, and so there's, you know, some pretty high ask there alone, but you've also got to track it to the camera's movement, and the fact that they pulled it off as seamlessly as they did is just amazing. Costuming and makeup, we'll go a 7 there. I feel like the robotic arms that one of the guys uses at the end, I feel like they would have been, if not, you know, a mocap suit sort of deal, then at least CG'd in on top of some sort of other prop, the use of eye lines and stuff, as well as I'm not entirely sure if Vin Diesel had to wear contacts to get his red eyes at the end there, his Bloodshot eyes, obviously where his name comes from, but other than that, all the other makeup was very sort of generic stage makeup, just making everyone look like they were a real person under studio lights and stuff, because they can make you look a little bit fake and stuff. The accuracy, I'm giving just a flat 5, perfect middle round, and that is solely because I myself am not actually aware whether it did or not. So by giving it a 5 and saying that it was just average on its accuracy to the source material, I can, obviously I can't say that it was good, but at the same time I also can't say it was particularly bad. So I'm not going to give it a particularly good score, I'm not going to give it a particularly bad score, so it's at 5. And then our marketing, the last one, we're going to give an 8 to. So tonight was actually a toss-up between whether or not I was going to see this film or if I was going to go see Invisible Man. They were both showing at the cinema. Their start times were 20 minutes apart. And marketing, the final trailers of each ended up being the deciding factor, because I was going with my brother, and the trailers ended up being that deciding factor. Plus knowing what shots were in those trailers, and a lot of them being very memorable shots from the film, marketing gets a good score there. Alright, time to add everything up. At the moment we're doing mental maths, so that's a $74, if my math is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so there's 40. That makes 60. Yes, 74. So it gets a 74 out of 100. Double checking my maths there. It gets a 74 out of 100 from me. I don't know what its Rotten Tomatoes or MetaCritic Score were, but I will leave the final scores of everything, as including the Rotten Tomatoes, MetaCritic scores, both the actual critics and their audience or user scores, and I'll also put down what IMDb gave it. Now, some of these sites give decimal points, some of these give percentages. I am going to be using percentages. Obviously, I've therefore taken whatever decimal times it by 10 to get a percentage, because usually the decimal are out of 10, so you times it by 10, get rid of that decimal point, basically, and that's your percentage out of 100. So I will be using percentages down below, so all my scores and all of the official scores are down below. Let me know which one you agree with the most. Let me know if you agree with me or not. Do you think I'm being a little bit too biased because I only just finished watching the film? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. And I mean, above all else, let me know if you enjoyed the film or not, if you've seen it, and if you haven't, do you plan on it, or is it something that you weren't really interested in? Would love to hear your input. Yeah, I'll also leave a link to the trailer so you guys can watch that, so you can sort of see what I mean with some of these things, and yeah, that's pretty much all I've got for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to see more videos from me and be notified when I upload new ones. And yeah, until next time guys, keep your head screwed on. Alright, just some little thoughts here at the end. I did just look up the cast for the film, and the actress, Isa Gonzalez, I think that's how you pronounce her first name, but she played Darling in Baby Driver, which I have seen. She was also in Alita Battle Angel, which I have not seen, but really would love to, and she's going to be in Godzilla vs. Kong at the end of this year. So I am really looking forward to that, and hopefully now I'll recognize her in that, and not feel like such an idiot when I realize that I've already seen that actress in other films. And I'm really glad I gave a 5 as my accuracy score. I did just look up how accurate it was to the comic books, and there seems to be a prevailing concern amongst particularly fans and stuff with the fact that the comic books are really bloody and gory, and Sony gave this film a PG-13. The reason I emphasize Sony is because they also gave Venom a PG-13 as well, and he's a cannibal, which makes me concerned about Carnage in Venom 2 at the end of the year. Hopefully they can decide that that film needs an R rating, considering that they're dealing with a version of Venom with no moral code at all versus a version of Venom which is just Venom, has a questionable moral code. Yeah, hopefully they can give that one an R rating, because Sony just doesn't seem to want to give any of its characters R ratings, despite the fact that things like the Joker movie, Logan, Deadpool have shown that comic book films can be R-rated and still sell really well, particularly with Marvel dominating the landscape with its Disney-approved stuff. So yeah, really glad I gave it a 5. Alright, that's all from me. I promise I'm going now. See you next time.